Ramona is a 9-year-old adventurous girl in 3rd grade. She is constantly in trouble at school because of her overactive imagination. Ramona tries speaking to her fellow students, but they all assume she is trying to be funny. This frustrates her a lot, and she is often in trouble. She hangs out a lot with her best friend and neighbor, Howard. Ramona is playing on the swings when her imagination exaggerates the height to the ground, causing her to dangle on the round bars. Howard calls their teacher, Mrs. Meacham, and she scolds Ramona, thinking she is being naughty. After school, Ramona and Howard race home after alighting from the school bus. Ramona lives in a comfortable neighborhood. Her family comprises 3 children and parents, Robert and Dorothy. Their life is simple and peaceful, even though Ramona still feels misunderstood. That day, Ramona gets the letters from the mailbox. Her father, Robert, finds a report card for his older daughter, Beezus. She is an amazing student with admirable behavior. He asks to see Ramona's report card, and she gets it from the freezer where she had hidden it. Ramona is praised for being a smart student, but she has no regard for grammar or the school rules. Ramona helps set the dining table while explaining how she likes making her own words, giving a few examples. This makes her family laugh, and Ramona angrily threatens to say a bad word. Her mother, Dorothy, tells her to say it, and Ramona says guts. The family laughs at her, so she locks herself in the bathroom. She later exits, but Robert finds that she has poured toothpaste into the sink. Ramona sits on a tree branch when her Aunt Bee approaches her. She reveals that she understands how it feels to be a younger sister and have to share everything. Bee gives Ramona a locket with her picture when she was Ramona's age. She tells Ramona to put her picture on the other side and treasure the necklace, as it is solely hers. Bee is one of the few people who understand Ramona, and the two connect on a level that no one else can. The next morning, Ramona is woken up by a loud noise. She hurriedly runs to the window and sees some construction workers tearing down the backyard for a new project. Ramona calls Howard over, and the two have a lovely time playing make-believe, which involves thinking of an imaginary world and pretending to live in it as people. Later that evening, Ramona waits for her father by the window, but he ignores her. He walks inside the house, greets the girls, then gives them some treats and asks to speak privately with Dorothy. Beezus suspects something is wrong since their father is rarely in a bad mood. The girls later learn that Robert had been laid off at his company since it had been acquired by a larger company. Despite this, Robert is sure that he will get another job soon. After that, Dorothy reaches out to her old boss and gets some part-time work. That night, Beezus tells Ramona they might be poor if they can't afford to pay the house bills. The roles are reversed, and now Robert is the stay-at-home dad. Dorothy gives him instructions on various things to keep the house running. He also checks the classifieds, hoping to find a job soon. Meanwhile, Mrs. Meacham wants the students to use a new word to express something they love at school. When it is Ramona's turn, she wears a helmet and tells everyone about the hole in her backyard. Sadly, the students laugh, causing the teacher to scold Ramona, believing she intentionally made fun of the class session. This makes Ramona angry, as she knows Mrs. Meacham will say something bad about her in the parent-teacher meeting that night. She is also angry at Howard, as he has refused to back up her story, and now everyone thinks she's a liar. Then the two run into Howard's uncle, Hobart. After learning Ramona's surname, he asks her to greet Bee. Ramona goes home and asks Robert who Hobart is. She is surprised to learn that he and Bee were high school sweethearts. Shortly after, Dorothy gets home. She's in a hurry to get to the meeting at Ramona's school. Robert had an interview earlier in the day, but it didn't go well. He shares this with Dorothy, who is worried that someone might take their house. Ramona overhears those words and visualizes someone in a large tow truck carrying their house away. After the parents leave, Ramona asks Beezus questions regarding the house. Beezus explains that their parents meant the house might be repossessed if they cannot pay their mortgage. The thought of losing her home makes Ramona decide to start a business to help raise money for the family. Beezus wakes one morning to find Ramona dragging her desk into the front yard. Ramona has opened a lemonade stand, and she thinks she will soon be rolling in money and saving her home. Henry, the local paperboy and Beezus's crush, is their first customer. Beezus gives him a drink for free, much to Ramona's annoyance. However, Beezus ends up spitting out her drink into Henry's face when she accidentally drinks a bee. Later, Beezus scolds Ramona, seeing her as the reason for her embarrassment, and she kicks Ramona out of their shared bedroom. Ramona doesn't give up and starts a car washing business. However, this one also fails. Ramona is sitting by the steps to her house when Bee finds her. Bee's attention is drawn to Hobart, who is fixing his Jeep. Bee's relationship with Hobart had ended badly, and now she thinks Hobart wants to win her back. Bee gives Ramona an example of how a fisherman fishes, saying that Hobart is trying to lure her in, like a fisherman does to a sea base. Ramona promises she will not let that happen. Bee then tells her they should confidently walk toward the house and ignore Hobart. Unfortunately, a neighbor's kid hits Bee with her tricycle, causing her to fall. Hobart comes to her rescue, but she isn't interested in talking to him. Hobart offers Ramona $100 to clean his car, but on the condition that he and Bee sit inside the car and catch up. Bee agrees, but asks Ramona to hurry and clean the car. Ramona asks Howard for help. Midway through, Ramona accidentally pulls away the car's lever, causing it to crash into the garage. Several paint tins drop on the truck, ruining it. The cost to repair the truck is in the hundreds of thousands, and Ramona feels terrible about everything. Seeing her so sad makes Hobart explain that he loves the car, as it will now camouflage. His kind gesture touches the hearts of all the people present. However, Ramona must pay for her actions, and Robert gives her a receipt for the damages that have happened. Over dinner, Robert shares that he wants to do something creative over his former executive work. This is not well received by Dorothy, but Ramona saves the conversation by talking about taking her picture the next day at school. In the morning, Beezus styles Ramona's hair so she can be beautiful in the picture. Ramona wants to show her fellow students how to crack a hard-boiled egg with her skull at lunch. Sadly, Robert had packed a fresh egg, and the goo ruined Ramona's hair, making the other students laugh at her. Mrs. Meacham tries to help Ramona look presentable while calling her a nuisance. On the line, the photographer wants Ramona to say peas instead of the usual cheese, and this makes Ramona exclaim in disgust. At home, Ramona's parents laugh at how horrible her picture looks. Robert wants Ramona's help, but she refuses, saying she will ruin everything. Robert says that she is not a nuisance, but she has excess energy and should focus it elsewhere. Over the following days, Ramona starts helping out in the house and doing certain jobs like lawn mowing. Her parents are happy with her behavioral change. Even at school, they reward her with her own room. Ramona's excitement for her first independent night turns into fear when Beezus tells her about monsters that lurk in the shadows. The following morning, Ramona is not feeling well. However, she decides to go to school, wearing a fireman's uniform over her pajamas. At school, Ramona picks up an application card to be a model for a popular peanut butter brand. In the music room, Ramona learns from her classmate Susan that her parents might be getting divorced. Susan explains that when her father got laid off, he and her mother started arguing a lot and eventually divorced. Her mother sold the house and became a real estate agent, while her father moved to another city. This news deeply scares Ramona, as she cannot imagine being separated from her family. She goes by the window to get fresh air, but she vomits, causing her to be sent home for the day. Her father, Robert, comes to pick her up, and he misses a job interview, but his car won't start, so he has to get it towed, and his numerous credit cards have been maxed out, as the family is in huge debt. At home, Robert gives Ramona some snacks, saying that one bad day shouldn't hinder their progress. He then suggests that they draw the longest painting ever seen in the world. While drawing, Robert confesses that he was an art student, but became an executive after Dorothy got pregnant with Beezus. Meanwhile, Beezus starts hanging out with Henry, revealing that the two were childhood best friends. Beezus shares her worries regarding the situation at home and hopes that her father will pull through and get a job that he likes. At school, Ramona presents the painting she and her father drew to her class. Everyone is impressed by her work for the first time, and they do not laugh at her. Later, Beezus is helping Ramona prepare for the peanut butter audition when they hear something. They find that Robert had an argument with Dorothy and is now sleeping on the couch, but Robert promises them that all will be okay. The following day, Bee and Hobart drop Ramona at the auditions. Ramona finds she is the only one not wearing a tiara and runs to ask Bee for one. She is disappointed to find Bee in a deep conversation with Hobart. Hobart says that he had spent 10 years traveling the world, hoping to forget Bee, but he couldn't. He reveals that he never came back for the Jeep, as he had mentioned, but he came back to win Bee. Ramona desperately needs a tiara, so she improvises and makes one out of thorn seeds. Sadly, Ramona doesn't do well in her audition and ends up embarrassing herself when she falls. She goes home and Robert cuts off some of her hair as it is tangled with the thorn seeds. He's late for an interview again, so he asks Ramona and Beezus to take care of each other and their younger sister until Dorothy gets home. Beezus and Ramona get on well initially. Ramona wants to make dinner for Dorothy, so she cannot be angry about her hair. However, she accidentally causes a fire that Beezus extinguishes. Beezus then yells at Ramona, saying that everything she touches is always what's messed up. She is also angry at her as she had intercepted Henry's call earlier. Ramona walks to the basement to feed her cat. However, she finds him dead and rushes upstairs to tell Beezus. Beezus comforts Ramona as the two reconcile. They bury the cat in the backyard after holding a private funeral. Later, Dorothy gets home and spends some time with her daughters. Robert comes home with some good news. He has got the job. Everyone is happy, but the girls are sad when they hear that they will have to move to another city, as that's where the job is. Despite this, it's a new chapter for the family, so they celebrate. That night, Ramona goes to sleep with Beezus. The two sisters talk for a while, and Beezus tells Ramona that it is not wrong to be different from everyone else. In the morning, Ramona watches as a poster is put up to sell their house. She isn't excited about moving and wishes there was something she could do to save the place. She's in a bad mood and refuses to help her mother and aunt in the backyard garden. Dorothy forces her to help, saying they have no option but to ensure the house is presentable to the new buyers. Here, Bee reveals to Dorothy that Hobart had invited her to join him in Alaska. However, she refuses as she cannot commit to Hobart without a gesture to take the relationship to another level. Ramona grabs the hose and accidentally fires at Hobart, who is digging holes in his backyard. Hobart is furious and takes revenge, but ends up soaking Bee. A water fight ensues, with the people of the two houses trying to outdo each other. Ramona comes up with a plan to sneak into the neighbor's house and turn on the sprinklers. The plan works, but the water pipes burst since Hobart messed up with them while digging his holes. As the water floods the holes in the backyard, a box covered in plastic wrap pops out. Hobart takes the box and excitedly shows it to Bee. She's surprised to find that he had saved everything from the time they dated. Hobart proposes to Bee, confessing his love for her. Bee accepts the proposal and everyone watches happily, not caring about the flooding garden. Soon everyone assembles at Howard's house to discuss the wedding. However, Ramona is by the window, watching strangers enter her home. Beezus volunteers to be a bridesmaid, but when she asks Ramona, she looks at everyone angrily. She yells at Bee, saying she had promised to always be there for her, but is now moving away. Ramona curses at them and walks toward her house. She destroys some flags, directing people into the house, and then steps inside. She goes to a room and accidentally falls through the roof. Her family manages to save her from falling, but Robert is furious. He wants Ramona to mature up, as ruining their chances of selling the house is childish. After Robert leaves to talk with the real estate agent, Ramona tells Dorothy that she wants to run away. Instead of persuading her to stay, Dorothy asks her when she will return. Ramona says she will never come back, so Dorothy gives her a larger suitcase. She also helps Ramona pack and instructs her to brush her teeth daily. Ramona drags the suitcase away from the house and reaches the bus station. The bench is full, so Ramona sits on her suitcase, wondering why it seems so out of shape. She opens the suitcase and finds a bowling ball, explaining why the suitcase is so heavy. There are a few things, but no clothes except Robert's sweater. She also finds her father's book with drawings of her. She hugs the book tightly just as the bus arrives. The driver asks Ramona to get in, but right then, Dorothy's voice comes in through the baby monitor she put in the suitcase. The bus leaves, and Ramona sees her family waiting across the road. She runs and reunites with them, saying she thought that she would be doing them a favor if she ran away. Ramona is happy to know that her family loves her, despite her different personality. She apologizes for all the mischief she has caused and promises to be better. On the wedding day, Ramona walks down the aisle with Beezus. The ceremony goes smoothly, but the page boy grabs the ring too hard, causing it to fall. Ramona sees the ring on Bee's heel and crawls to get it. Everyone watches silently, sure that something will go wrong. However, Ramona retrieves the ring and gives it to Hobart without drama. B mouths thank you to Ramona, who replies by making a fishbait sign, implying that B has fallen into the trap. The guests go to the reception, where Hobart and B share their first dance as a married couple, while being entertained by Ramona's music class. Beezus is watching the couple when Henry approaches her. He confesses that he is attracted to her and doesn't see her just as a friend. Beezus is excited and the two go to dance together. Ramona sees her father talking to Mrs. Meacham. When he comes to her, Ramona apologizes for anything wrong she might have unintentionally done. Strangely, Robert explains that he was thanking her. An arts teacher position had opened up at the school, and Mrs. Meacham had recommended Robert to the school as the replacement. Robert decides to take the job even though it doesn't pay well. He is grateful to Ramona for encouraging him to be whatever he wants, and says that she saved the family. After the celebrations, Bee and Hobart enter the multicolored Jeep to drive to Alaska for their honeymoon. Ramona runs to Bee and gives her a locket with her ugly school picture on it. Bee is touched, and she holds Ramona gently, saying she is extraordinary. Then the family go into their house, ready to see where life takes them next.